All right, take a look at this. We're talking about an absolutely gorgeous, spacious apartment in one of the most exclusive parts of London. The price? A cool £1.75 million. I mean, it looks pretty much perfect, right? But there's a catch. There's always a catch. And this one is hidden deep in the fine print, and it changes everything.
And that catch, that's what we're here to unpack. We're going to decode what I'm calling the short lease secret. We're going to figure out how what looks like a massive problem with this Kensington property might, just might, be its greatest investment opportunity. So let's get the basic details down. It's in Duchess of Bedford House, that's in the W8 postcode. Price is $1.75 million. You get 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and it's a really generous 1,376 square feet. But honestly, the most important detail on this whole slide, the word that changes the entire story, is that last one, tenure, leasehold. And there it is, straight from the real estate agent's listing. Right after they call it an exciting opportunity, they drop this little bombshell. Please note the property is held on a short lease. Now, for most buyers, those words are a gigantic red flag, a deal breaker even. So, what even is a leasehold? Well, to put it simply, you're not buying the property forever. You're buying the right to live in it for a set number of years. You own the bricks and mortar of the apartment, sure, but you don't own the land it's on. And here's the critical thing. As that clock on the lease ticks down, the property becomes a depreciating asset. Yeah, its value can actually go down over time. So why is this such a huge headache for people? I mean, what makes a short lease so toxic in the property world? Well, it really boils down to a whole mess of financial and logistical problems. And traditionally, the hurdles have been massive. First up, getting a mortgage, it's tough. A lot of banks just won't touch a property with less than 80 years left on the lease. Second, the value starts to drop, and it drops faster and faster as time goes on. And third, trying to extend that lease gets crazy expensive, especially once you dip below that 80-year mark because of this thing called marriage value. Honestly, the whole process has historically been a total nightmare. But, and this is where the story takes a really dramatic turn. For anyone looking at a property just like this one, a brand new law has just landed, and it has completely rewritten the rules of the game. And this chart just lays it all out. Just look at the difference the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act of 2024 makes. The old way, you got a 90-year extension. The new way, a standard 990-year extension. You used to have to wait 2 years before you could even apply. That's gone. Now you can do it from day one. And that super expensive marriage value penalty, abolished. The whole thing is just simpler.
Let's just pause on that number for a second. 990 years. That is a total game changer. It basically turns the property into what they call a virtual freehold. It gives the owner absolute long-term security and pretty much erases the problem of a declining asset for, well, centuries.
Okay, so with that big legal problem now looking a whole lot more like a solvable puzzle, let's shift our focus back to the property itself. Let's look past the paperwork and explore the real, fundamental value of a place like Duchess of Bedford House. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. The estate agency Savills calls it one of Kensington's premier mansion buildings. I mean, that's a pretty serious stamp of approval. It tells you a lot about the quality and prestige of this address. The building itself is from the 1930s, and you can see it has that classic, really impressive architecture. And of course, it comes with all the services you'd hope for at this level: secure entry, beautiful common areas, and a resident porter. That porter service is a huge plus for both convenience and security. And the location? Well, it's just unbeatable. It's on the very prestigious Phillimore Estate. You're literally 250 meters from Holland Park, 300 meters from Kensington High Street, and you can walk to Notting Hill Gate. Transport links are fantastic. This is prime central London. And here's a fun bit of history for you. The street itself is called Duchess of Bedford's Walk. It's named after Georgiana Russell, the Duchess of Bedford, who basically turned this neighborhood into a famous social hub way back in the 19th century. So you're not just buying a flat, you're buying a little piece of London history. All right, so we've established the property is incredible on its own merits. Now let's circle all the way back to that short lease, but let's look at it through a completely new lens, as an investor's opportunity. This is where we figure out how that big initial problem actually becomes a strategic advantage. So, this is the most important takeaway. The short lease isn't a fatal flaw anymore. In fact, it's the whole reason this amazing property might be priced the way it is. It's the source of a potential built-in discount for a smart buyer who knows about these new rules. Let's just break it down one more time. Every single one of the old hurdles has been turned into a new opportunity. The declining asset? That becomes a 99-year virtual freehold. The 2-year wait? It's now an immediate right. The crazy extension cost? Reduced by law. An uncertain, messy process becomes a predictable way to add value to your property.
And this chart really shows the financial play here. So you start with the purchase price, which is discounted because of that short lease. Then you add the now more predictable and lower cost of extending the lease. The whole idea is that the sum of those first 2 bars is hopefully a lot less than the final market value of the very same apartment once it has that brand new ultra-long lease. That gap, that's the value you've just unlocked.
So what all comes down to this one question? In the past, buying a short lease property was, without a doubt, a huge financial risk. But now, with the entire legal landscape having changed so dramatically, has it become a calculated reward for the savvy investor who's done their homework? Now that is something to think about.